Shields up, Ironbreakers. Workan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to MMOments, and today we're going to be talking about World of Warcraft's Endgame. And I say Endgame with air quotes because in the first 2 weeks of the expansion release, we really only have access to Mythic 0 dungeons. So that means that we're not really at the true Endgame. The raid hasn't really opened yet, so I can't really talk about the raid right now. We can't really talk about Mythic Plus because we haven't really done Mythic Plus, but I have done all the dungeons on heroic mode. I've done all the dungeons on mythic mode. I've been working on my Covenant campaign. As a matter of fact, I'm actually working on 2 characters these past 2 weeks. I've been completely addicted to World of Warcraft, if I'm going to be completely honest. There's been several days where I just kind of like, hey man, I just feel like playing some WoW, and I've been playing a ton of WoW. Now, a lot of that, like I mentioned, has to do with the people that I'm playing, because this is World of Warcraft, like I've mentioned multiple times, I feel like, is an extremely social game. So it's really the type of game where your enjoyment is going to vary depending on whether or not you enjoy playing with the people that you are playing right now. Like if you're just pugging, you're probably not going to have as much fun as I have because, you know, we go in guild groups, we mess around, people die and whatever, and nobody really leaves or becomes upset or there's any drama or anything like that. So it's whatever. So your mileage in the World of Warcraft endgame is going to vary wildly depending on the people that you are playing with and how much fun you are having playing with those people and how much drama you have to deal with because, you know, that's kind of like the lifeblood of an MMO. But having said that, naturally there's always good things and bad things when it comes to endgame. And today that's going to be like the focus of the discussion. So what type of activities can you do when you actually reach endgame, like when you reach max level and after you've picked your Covenant? You're going to have a lot of things you can do. You have 8 mythic dungeons, which is actually not that much. I believe that Battle for Azeroth actually launched with 10. But the thing here is, in my opinion, is the quality of those dungeons. And I don't know if it's because they're still fresh or whatever, but I actually like the dungeons in this particular expansion more than I like the dungeons in BFA, because it seems to be more about doing mechanics right than necessarily having a higher item level. Like, to give you guys an idea, the first Mythic 0 that I did, my Paladin was actually item level 144, I think, which if you go into the game, for those of you that don't know about item levels in World of Warcraft or whatever, just to go to the heroic, which is the difficulty below mythic, they require for you to queue in the, you know, in the group finder system, they require to have 155 item levels. So more than 10 levels below that, and I was doing mythic. And I'm not saying that that's like an impressive stat or anything like that. I just felt like it was interesting because due to the fact that we were studying the mechanics of the instance itself, and sure, we wiped a couple of times, but because of the fact that we were looking at the mechanics and actually doing the mechanics and using CC and stuff like that, we're able to do the instance just fine and completed that mythic with everyone having much lower item level than what was required. And again, I'm not saying it's a big deal. I'm just saying that I like the fact that it didn't really feel like, oh, we just don't have enough item level to do this. It was more like, oh, if we put a little bit of CC in here, if we do a little bit of, you know, if we do this tactic just right, and we'll get by through the skin of our teeth. So that was cool. So yeah, mythics, I've been enjoying them a lot. Like I said, I've actually been working on 2 characters, which is my Paladin, which is going to be a tank. And I'm also working on my warrior, which is going to be arms warrior for now, potentially maybe even swap to fury later down the line. But this is where kind of like my first little complaint comes, which is the fact that while I do appreciate that, you know, the Covenants do provide you with some interesting abilities and provide you with some variation in the gameplay, I was not a big fan of the fact that, you know, in order for you to do certain activities, certain Covenants are just like flat out better than others. So, for instance, in my Paladin, when I was doing the story itself, I was like, man, I really want to go Necrolord. because I really like the story of the Necrolords, but Necrolord is just not particularly good if you're running a protection paladin. Whereas if you take Kyrian and Divine Toll, oh man, Divine Toll, Kyrian, I mean, basically you pop your wings, you pop your Divine Toll, you're at the top of the damage meters, you're dealing crap tons of damage, you're destroying everything. It's beautiful, beautiful, right? I believe I already mentioned this in my previous video, but that is also like a bit of a frustration point for me, because you really do want to pick a covenant if you want to engage in high-end activities, like what is my objective. Like I've mentioned, I really want to go hard. I want to try and see if we can go through mythic rating, if we can do like really high keys and stuff like that. So I'm not a huge fan of having to pick the covenant, and basically you're stuck with that covenant if you want to do this specific activity. Another good example is, for instance, like I said, I'm working on 2 characters. So one of them is my paladin, the other one's my warrior. Now, the warrior, because I want to have him deal damage, I need to go Venthyr, because Venthyr is, you know, one of the best covenants for arms warriors because of all the synergies that it has with the execute synergies that warriors have. But execute becomes condemned, and then condemned just deals a crap ton of damage. And you can have a lot of skills that really synergize with that. So I wanted to, you know, obviously I'm going to pick that covenant, but while I'm leveling, I want to play as a tank because it just makes things easier. And yeah, you instantly feel it when you go to dungeons, that like, oh, I'm really missing like this covenant ability that I could have had with the Kyrians, which would like throw this spear and enemies would be stuck and it would deal AoE damage and it would allow me to kite better and it would allow me to do all of these things better that the Venthyr abilities simply don't provide. It's like, I wish it was easier for you to just like swap around covenants. And I understand why they're doing it and why it works the way that it works, but that is a bit of a point of contention, because ultimately, in order for you to really min-max a character to do high-end activities in the game, basically, if you want to do 2 different roles, I mean, and for some situations, if you really want to min-max at the extreme, even for the same role, like say a protection paladin, if you really want to, okay, I want to be the best that I can be for Mythic Plus, and I want to be the best that I can be for rating, that's 2 different covenants. And I know that some people are like, well, only like 1% or whatever are going to have an issue with that, or 5% or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but why? Why does that even need to be an issue? I really don't understand, because like I've heard this conversation pretty much since the start of the expansion of, you know, the people that usually go ham on World of Warcraft talking about this and how this was going to be a problem. And it is, because, you know, I'm basically, when I get into rating, I'm not going to have the best possible covenant that you could have for rating, because I'm going to go rating with the Kyrian covenant, and the best rating covenant for the protection paladin is Venthyr. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm going to do my best, and we'll see how that pans out. But for now, doing mythics on my paladin as part of the Kyrian covenant, it's the best. It feels so friggin' smooth. You just go in there, Divine Toll, and just destroy everything. It's beautiful, lovely. So yeah, when it comes to mythics, dungeons, or heroics, like, I think they're fantastic. I think they're great. I wish there was more of them. Because I know that, you know, in a couple of weeks they're going to get old. Like, these are still the first 2 weeks, so let's not kid ourselves. Right now they're still new and it feels great to run them. But a couple of weeks from now, it's like, oh yeah, it's this dungeon again. So they really need to keep up the pace. I believe the Bellular was the one who's mentioned they need to have a really aggressive content cycle to be able to maintain the goodwill that they've gotten from the start of the expansion, because a lot of people actually appear to be enjoying the expansion as it is, which is good. Now, besides the mythics, because I know that I've spent a lot of time talking about dungeons and covenants and all of that stuff, because dungeons is my favorite thing in WoW, hands down. Better, more even than raids. Like, I like raiding a lot, but I prefer doing 5-man dungeons. That's my thing. Now, besides that, you have the world quests, which are fine, you know, it's whatever. I'm not a huge fan of world quests. Like, I liked the concept the first time that I saw it, but you know, after you do a world quest a couple of times, you're just like, okay, you're just kind of like going through the motions, right? Then there is TORGHAST, and I will talk more about TORGHAST further in the video. TORGHAST right now is a lot of fun, but I want to talk more about it a little bit ahead. Then there are your Maw dailies, because the Maw is this zone that you kind of go in there and you have to do some daily quests if you want to rack up Stygia. Now, why is Stygia important? Because eventually I believe that Stygia is going to be a currency that is going to allow you to socket your gear, and adding sockets to your gear is going to make your gear infinitely, not infinitely, but a lot more powerful, because you'll be able to put gems on there, which will give you a primary stat or, you know, a secondary stat, which will greatly increase your performance naturally. So this is going to be something that I feel like you probably want to keep up with. So, you know, there's your Maw dailies, then there's your call-ins. Call-ins usually get 1 a day, and you can stack them, I believe, up to 3. So you can stay without logging in for like 3 days and then just go in and do all 3 of them at the same time. Then there's your Covenant campaign. There's some anima grind every week. The game expects you to grind out like 1,000 anima. But there's usually a lot of anima quests, and there are other sources of anima that you get just by playing the game and doing activities in the game. So the anima grind has not been terrible. As a matter of fact, even just the other day, there was like a world quest that gave you 750 anima, which is like... It's almost that quest pretty much complete. So that's one of your weekly quests, which is not that hard to get done. Then there's your mission table, which I'm not a big fan of, and there's your specific Covenant activity. Now, the mission table is a mobile game. I mean, everybody knows, you know, when it's a mobile game and it's just something that you go to your Covenant and you do your mission table, or you use your phone. Although I have to say, I'm really disappointed that Blizzard still doesn't allow you to basically pull out your phone and do your mission table from your phone while you're logged into the game. Basically, you have to log out of the game if you want to use it on your phone, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, that would be the advantage of having it on your phone. Like, you're playing the game, your character is halfway across the world, and you don't have to go back to your Covenant in order to do these things, which is why I almost feel like Blizzard just let people do the missions whenever, whether they're logged into the game or not. It shouldn't really matter. And then there is, like I said, your Covenant activity. Now, your Covenant activity is going to vary. I don't know a lot about the different activities that each Covenant has. I can tell you that the Kirin activity, I was not a big fan of, because the Kirin activity is the Path of Ascension. And what that does is, after you unlock a certain building in your Covenant, they want you to go grind materials on certain mobs, and then you bring those materials back, and that will enable different enemies in the Path of Ascension, which you can then use your soul binds, which are basically some characters. You gain control of these characters and you use them in fights with special abilities and whatnot. Now, the fighting and whatnot, I think that's fine. Like, I enjoy playing these characters. I can see the Path of Ascension being somewhat fun, but the grinding materials part of it, I thought it just felt like it was completely slapped together at the very last second, because they're just like, oh yeah, give me 4 Elysian feathers. And I was like, okay, where do I get those? Yes, give me those feathers. And I was like, okay. So you go out into pretty much any zone that has like a feathered animal, and you attack it, and that thing must have had like, I don't know, a 1% drop chance or whatever, because I don't know, I think I must have killed like over 100 winged creatures before I got my 4 Elysian wings, and I was like, this is ridiculous. This is freaking ridiculous. And then they wanted me to get like 2 champions pelts or whatever, so I killed 100 creatures like horses, foxes, pretty much anything that could drop a pelt. I killed it, and eventually, after, it was probably not 100 because it was less materials, let's say like 50, 60 creatures dead, I eventually got my 2 other materials. Now it's like, okay, these drop rates, they're messed up. They're really messed up. This thing is grindy as hell. But I was like, okay, but maybe it's just a one-time thing that you gotta do. So I do the thing and I turn it in, and then immediately after you complete that thing and you win your first Path of Ascension, they turn around, they're like, okay, so now I'm gonna need you to get me 6 of this material, 7 of this material, 10 of this other material. And I was just like, no, you're insane. There's just something wrong with you, because like, you're gonna ask me for all these materials, not gonna tell me where the material drops. I mean, they give you like an idea. It's like, oh yeah, go kill monsters that have protruding bones. Like, okay, so I guess very much like the puzzles that I was talking to you guys about on the previous thing, I guess I just go to Wowhead. That's what you got to do now to figure out which one of these monsters have the best drop chance to be able to actually do this in a timely fashion. Because see, the thing about MMOs is how much they respect your time. And Path of Ascension for Kirins is just an activity that I felt that did not respect my time. Like, I don't want to waste my time murdering 100 different mobs not 100 somewhat similar mobs to get like 4 materials for this one activity. Like that's just not a good use of my time. That is boring, that is annoying, and it's just like something that I was immediately turned off to. Like I was instantly going like, I don't even want to do this. I don't even want to do Path of Ascension. Hell, I might not even do Path of Ascension because I find it way too grindy unless they change the way that the system works. Now, my friend that is in Venthyr, he told me that for Venthyr, he didn't have to do anything close to what I was describing. I'm like, I don't know, maybe other covenants have it easier, maybe they don't. I don't know what the idea is behind it, but I do feel that the grind in between each of these activities and the evolution of the activities for the Covenant kind of sucks. And to be honest, I'm not doing it. Unless they change it, unless they do something to significantly change it, I'm just straight up not doing it. I don't care. Because like, look, I'm not gonna, unless it gives me power. If it gives me power, I might have to do it, but I don't think it does. So, you know, and I would like to do it because I've been doing pretty much everything else. Right? Because I have been enjoying the expansion, despite the fact that, you know, I have my problems with some of the leveling experience, which, by the way, people were telling me in my previous video, oh, no, it's totally explained in the story that, you know, that DEVOS goes to the dark side. That was perfectly explained in the story. Well, this week, when the next bit of the Covenant campaign showed up, DEVOS actually assaults the Kyrian base and turns the Forsworn in front of us. That was the missing link that I was missing from the previous story bit, which basically means that the story progression of the Shadowlands, let's just say Blizzard doesn't really care that much about it, considering that they show you a Forsworn DEVOS in a dungeon before you actually get to see DEVOS turn into a Forsworn. And then later, when you advance the Covenant campaign, then you get to see that. And I'm just like, dude, this story is just like so disjointed. Like, what are you doing? Come on, man. This is pathetic. Like, I was very disappointed. From a story standpoint, I was very disappointed. But like I said, I'm still enjoying the in-game activities, so whatever. But anyways, we talked about all this stuff. Now you guys might be wondering, okay, so Rurkan, you also talked about call-ins and how you can stack your call-ins. Yeah, call-ins are basically the emissaries. It's just like the emissary quests that you used to have. Call-ins are the same thing, but you need to pick them up at your Covenant because they show up as quests. And what you can get from them is gold, conduits, and loot. So you definitely want to do your call-ins because there's always a chance to get something good. And you can get a lot of gold. Like I'm talking, you can get on average about 2,000 gold every day just for doing your one conduit. If you stack them for like 3 days because you couldn't log in or whatever, and then 3 days later you just do 3 of them, there's a chance for you to actually get 6,000 gold or close to 6,000 gold from just doing your call-ins. And they're usually pretty easy because they've actually done some pretty cool stuff, which whenever there's like a defense quest or whatever, you can just go do a dungeon and it fills that up real quick, which is perfect for me because it gives you a choice on what activity you want to tackle. Like you like doing world quests, go do a world quest. You like doing, you like going to find treasures and killing rares, go do that. You like doing dungeons, go do a dungeon. Like I like that freedom. See, that is the game respecting your time. When they let you pick what activity you want to do that progresses a certain thing that they want you to do. Like that is cool. That is very big ups. But then when they want you to do something that you don't want to do and kind of like force you to do it in order to progress, that's where the problems kind of start showing up. But anyway, like I also said, I was going to talk about TORGHAST. TORGHAST is hella fun. Now, I know that there's a lot of people that have been struggling with TORGHAST. I believe that TORGHAST has actually been nerfed. Now, I did TORGHAST this week before the nerf was applied, and I did notice that level 3 was beginning to feel a little bit tough. And I was like, dude, if this is feeling tough for a protection paladin, I can't even imagine some of the more, some of the weaker classes are going to be definitely be struggling with TORGHAST, but I think it's fun. I think TORGHAST is a lot of fun. I almost wish that there was more reason for me to go to TORGHAST. Like, I don't want it to be mandatory because that's one of the best things that they do right now is that, you know how you used to have chores? I mean, you always have chores. Every single MMO always has their chores. Like, even if you think of something like a Destiny, which is kind of like an MMO light, right? You'd always have your chores. Like, you got to go do a certain instance to complete a certain weekly quest or whatever, and that is going to give you a chance of getting a really good piece of loot. I remember that when I was playing Destiny 2. So every single MMO always has these things. And World of Warcraft, you know, back in BFA, Those things were extreme, okay? Because like you had to do your Mythic Plus, then you had to go grind your Visions, then you had to go grind your Corruptions, then you had to go grind this. Like there were so many chores that even like just thinking about making an alt, you're just like, oh, but then I'll have to go grind all of these other things to, you know, for my alt to actually be able to do things, which kind of was a very, you know, it was something that was a big deterrent for people to actually play alts. Whereas in this expansion, at least at this point, I'm not saying that this is not going to change, right? But with this expansion at this point, it actually feels so cool that, like I said, I myself started leveling my warrior, and I've been enjoying playing my warrior. And with my paladin, I'm usually able to do everything fairly early in the week. So I do my Torghast runs, I do my, you know, I do my call-ins, I do the Maw stuff, which there's also some weekly quests at the Maw, and you're just kind of done, you know? And then you start working on your mythics, which is the fun stuff. Your mythics to go, you know, you do your mythics to get some gear and whatnot. And then after you do your mythics, you're actually done for that character. You're done. Like you can come back in 3 days to do your call-ins or whatever, or if you want to really grind out Stygia, you can come back every day and do 2 quests in the Maw. But there's not that much that you are forced to doing, which is cool because that frees you up. If you want to try on an alt, you can do the same stuff on your alt, and you know you can advance that way. Or if you don't want to play an alt and you just want to, you know, be able to keep up with WoW and play other video games, you can do that as well, which is a very welcome change from the way it was in BFA and the ridiculous amount of grind that you had to do in BFA. Now, naturally, this is going to increase as the expansion moves forward because we're going to add rating into it. And then, you know, you have to do your weekly stuff and you have to add your rating on top of it. And, you know, we're also going to add Mythic Plus. So it's not just about doing your Mythics, although, you know, once you add Mythic Plus after you've done a couple of Mythic Zeros, you're not really going to want to do all of the mythics. You just want to do a couple of mythic pluses here and there, right? So, you know, once you add your mythic pluses, that's going to add a lot more activities that you'll be able to do. And we'll see how the grind feels then, because, you know, I'm going to do an updated video then to talk about how I feel about the raid, how I feel about, you know, the mechanics in there and all of that jazz, because I haven't actually seen anything from the raid from the beta. So it's going to be some fun times to check that stuff out, I feel like. But yeah, as I was saying, Torghast, right before I got on this little sidetrack of your weekly stuff, Torghast is actually a ton of fun. Personally, I greatly enjoy it. I wish there was more reason to go in there. Again, not to be forced, because that's the key thing. I wish there was reasons to go there, not necessarily just to grind your legendary item dust, because you need dust to create your legendary items and whatnot. I wish there was more reasons to go there, to, you know, maybe I wish there was a way for you to actually get loot out of there besides your legendary, because then I would be running Torghast a lot more often. But right now, there's not enough reasons. You go there, you do like your weekly thing to get your soul ash, which is the material that's used to craft your legendary item, and then you're just kind of done. But it is fun. I do like doing Torghast a lot. But yeah, so far, I have to say, even though I have my issues with the way that they tell the story, my issues with some of the leveling experience that I thought was a little bit boring, but luckily it goes by fast, so that becomes a lot better. And also, I leveled an alt through Threads of Fate, which basically gives you the freedom to do whatever the hell you want instead of actually following the linear campaign. That was really cool, actually, because basically my favorite thing to do is dungeons. I just leveled my alt doing dungeons nonstop. You know, when you're a tank, you get instant queues, so tank privilege and all that. But yeah, so far, having a ton of fun with it. We'll see if it sticks. And I know that, you know, there's always that thing where people ask me, so would you recommend it? I can't recommend World of Warcraft, because World of Warcraft is that game that I know that a large part of it, for me, is fueled by 2 things: nostalgia and the people I'm playing with. And if you don't have those 2 things, then no, I would not recommend World of Warcraft. If you don't have people that you're playing with, I would definitely not recommend World of Warcraft, because I don't think it's a great solo experience. I just don't think it's a great game for you to play if you're playing it by yourself, which one of the key aspects, one of the key things that made me want to play World of Warcraft was because I asked this friend of mine whether or not he would have like a rating spot for me if I was to come back to the game. And when he said yes, that's when I was like, okay, then sure, I'll play again. But yeah, I would still probably not recommend it unless you have those 2 things: nostalgia, if you enjoy the game, and if you have cool people to play with that you think you'll have some fun. These 2 things are as essential as bread and butter for World of Warcraft. So yeah, Let me know what you guys think about this video. Thank you all very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy it, hit the dislike button. Feedback is important. See you guys on the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.